6% of the global population suffers from diabetes. This crypto project is aiming to find a solution. This crypto project is known as Wellshare Health. And in this interview today, we get to go over all of the things that they're working towards with their new app. Stay tuned, and I hope you like this video. Who are you, and what are you doing here on this interview?
Yeah, good question. So my name is Jock. I'm co-founder of Welshare Health. And essentially what we're doing, in a nutshell, maybe the TLDR, is we're building an app, a decentralized app that allows you to personalize how you share your health information and contributes to medical research.
That is fantastic. And I'm very excited here. You can see the beautiful background. We are literally in Germany right now, doing the first ever in-person interview. So thank you very much, Jock. I appreciate you having me here. It's very exciting. I think what you guys are harping on, one of the main things that you guys are focusing in on, being able to utilize some of the patient data that has forever just been siloed, is a fantastic opportunity here in the world of DeSci. Especially, you guys are focused in specifically on diabetes, if I'm ever at a frown down, right? Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, for sure. So the long-term vision is for our app and the entire ecosystem that we're building to be therapeutic area agnostic. But we are definitely starting, in particular, with diabetes research. There's many reasons why we're doing this strategically, but one of the main reasons actually is diabetes is one of the most prevalent chronic conditions on this planet. 6% of the entire world's population has diabetes. And so we've seen over the past many different forms of people coming together and open sourcing their data to help treat diabetes in a meaningful way. Maybe just as a quick example, about a decade ago, there was this movement called #WeAreNotWaiting. And essentially what this was just people who either had type 1 diabetes or whose family members had type 1 diabetes. And they honestly just were sick of the existing med tech devices. It was just not user-friendly and not intuitive enough, and just really didn't give them what they needed for them to be able to live with their diabetic condition. And so what they started doing was actually hacking the existing CGM devices in such a way that they altered the algorithm. And then they posted this information online in different diabetes online forums, and more and more people caught on to this and were like really interested in it and were supporting it, that they started creating this open source community. And it's quite analogous to a lot of the DAOs, in particular bio DAOs that we see today in the DeSci space, but this was a long time ago. Now, of course, you can't just hack at a medical regulated device, and at some point the FDA came in and was like, no, you guys can't do that. But just recently, last year, there was a great success in the space because a follow-up iteration of that altered medtech device and algorithm was actually approved by the FDA. So it was a great win for the community. And why am I saying this is because in the diabetes space, there's a lot of people who not only understand the value of sharing your health data, but who can actually, benefit from sharing it directly if you see that it has a direct impact on the medical research that's being done.
That's a really interesting and like altruistic story where they were able to hack the machine, and like it seems as if the diabetic community already kind of rallied around a decentralized cause and then saw some results from it. So that's very promising for you guys as you dive deeper into that, because like I've known a lot of friends and family who have had diabetes and I don't think you can just cure diabetes, but who like watching them go and navigate their entire life and having to constantly have that nagging thought in the back of their head, like regardless as to what they're doing, whether they exercise too much or eat too much and not regulating their insulin, it's difficult. It's very difficult. So any kind of help that you guys can provide is definitely going to be greatly received. You guys hosted an event here actually yesterday, and you brought on, I forget her name right now, but what was it? Svea. Yeah. And she was someone who was suffering from diabetes, and she was talking about her experience and even touched on the AI algorithm that like is coming into some of the devices to be able to like regulate the insulin flow a lot easier and smoother. So it seems like the broader scientific space is starting to advance in diabetes, which is phenomenal. And again, just allows for you guys to fit right in with a giant cohort study. if you don't mind talking about the app a little bit, I know you guys have something in the works. I want
yeah, more. Definitely. So yesterday at our rooftop events, we were very happy to announce that we've now launched the closed beta of our app. So we'll be testing that with our ambassadors in the diabetes space, as well as the first 100 people on our wait list who've been eagerly waiting and also helping us out with, the co-creation workshops that we've been doing, in particular in the diabetes space. So what's important for us is to really build a real-world product that solves a real-world need, right? And I think what we see with a lot of startups and perhaps in the blockchain space as well is projects creating projects, blockchain-related projects just for the sake of it. But we just want to make sure that we build something that people are actually going to use, people actually need. So that's why we're co-creating with the community and have held several different co-creation workshops. So that's kind of what we've been building the past couple of months. And so we're really excited to be able to now release the closed beta and get more testing in. And so the idea from here in terms of the app is to test with these 100 users, get their feedback, iterate, and then come out with a next version that then will be publicly available on the app stores. And super excited for those announcements that could be coming out soon as well.
It's a huge milestone. And I do have a question, but before I ask that question, I want to make sure that if you guys are enjoying this video here, that you go down, hit that like button, subscribe, and while you're down there in the description, all of the details so that you guys can check out Wellshare will be in the description. So make sure you give them a follow. This is some good information here. Now, with the app that you guys are inevitably going to take out of the beta launch here, what exactly are patients or individuals who contribute their data? What is that kind of experience going to look like for them?
Yeah.
What is going to happen with the data? What kind of things are they going to be filling out or experiencing on the app?
Yeah, good question. So the way that you can imagine it, and we'll be posting videos of the demo of our app pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. But the way that you can imagine it is you register, and the first thing you do is you fill out a medical questionnaire that's quite analogous to what you would fill out when you go to the doctor. So it's going to ask you basic information about your medical status, perhaps what allergies you have, if there's any conditions that you currently have, what medications you're on, and so on. Once you fill out that survey, you receive the option to share that data and give it to the data pool to be shared and contributed to medical research. Now, when you hit that toggle button, what happens is you actually earn in-app reward points. These in-app reward points we call shares, and these shares you can collect over time and at a future point then convert into either fiat, so for example stablecoin, fiat or stablecoin, and be able to convert your medical contribution directly into monetary terms. Now, in the medical questionnaire, there's a particular question that asks you if you've been diagnosed with diabetes or not. And so going back to what we were talking about earlier, yes, we're definitely focused on diabetes research in the beginning, but what we also want to do is build an app that's just available for everyone to participate because we see the need in so many different fields. So even if you're 100% healthy, it's perfectly fine for you to contribute because what we want to do is build out a database that has the potential to really contribute to meaningful clinical studies, in which case you're always going to want to have half of the sample size of people participating actually not being part of the group that has the condition or the necessary therapy that's being researched. And so essentially what this means, if you do have diabetes, you can select if you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, and then you get a daily questionnaire following that asks you about your blood glucose levels. And if you're not diabetic, you actually get a daily questionnaire that asks you about your mental health status. Sounds intimidating. It's not at all. It's super simple. 2 questions. The first one is, how are you doing today? And the second question is, how did you sleep last night? And you get to answer these questions and earn the same amount of shares or in-app reward points as if you were also filling out the blood glucose level. So we do this in particular to ensure that there's no incentives to put in incorrect data or to somehow create incentives that are misaligned with our overall goal. And super excited for that to be available more publicly soon in the very near future.
Yeah, you said something that I think I want to say thank you for bringing it up because I've not brought it up here before, but the control group. So highlighting the importance of also having people who are not suffering from the same disease or item that's being researched so that you can compare the results to a standard control group that does not deviate and then see like what kind of differences actually are there. Rather than just collecting a bunch of data on one overarching topic, you can then actually see the differences and be able to analyze something. So that's really cool. And you highlighted that there is no discrepancy in points, which means that people will still be able to sign up despite not having diabetes or in the future, because at the beginning of this, you said that you will be going into other diseases and other areas of therapies as well.
That's right.
So it's definitely a key thing to hold on to. I'm curious. So the Sherry's is going to be the reward structure.
That's right.
Do they have a referral system as well in case people want to like bring on and share some of those Sherry's?
Yes, good one. Yeah. So what we'll be building out in the version that will be coming out and will be publicly available soon, we'll have 2 additional features in addition to what I just mentioned. So the first one is we will have a referral system in which each user receives a referral code. And using that referral code to refer your friends and other people in your network, you actually receive Sherry's, and the person who is being referred to also earns Sherry's. So that way, like everyone benefits from the system. Of course, it makes sense to sign up, and then once you're signed up, to also continue using the app and fill out the daily questionnaire to continue earning those Sherry's. And why is that important? Well, because the second feature that we're integrating is a leaderboard. Now, the leaderboard displays the top 10 users who have the most amount of Sherry's, and it's reset every month. So it's a 1 month-long competition every single month to see who can get the most amount of Sherry's. And I think we have a couple more announcements that are also tied to the token and the leaderboard, but maybe we'll say that for a little bit later.
All right, yeah. I think you just alluded to ticker Sherry's. No, I'm just kidding. I think we're in Berlin, so it's okay if I say it. We're not in the US. The SEC is not watching my video now. Yeah, I'm very excited, and you guys have definitely entered into the DeSci space, and at least from my perspective, with a good initial push. Because my Discord, the people who are watching this right now, started talking about you guys because I think you went around and followed a bunch of people on Twitter, on X, which is a really like appropriate approach into marketing, gaining users or gaining people who are going to contribute the data. It's something that I wish a lot more DeSci projects or just projects in general would do, because it seems as if you guys have a focus on community, which is fantastic. Now, I do have a question, and this is going to be a more intense question. So are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
A lot of the users are going to be sharing their personal health data with you, as well as their mental data and very, very personal pieces of information. So how could they be certain that the data is going to be secure and not violate their trust? Because we see it all the time in traditional science and traditional therapies and stuff that the user gets taken advantage of. So What are you guys doing to differentiate that?
Yes, good question. So it actually goes back down to the very fundamentals of why we're creating this product in the first place. So let me take a step back and kind of describe how the healthcare system, at least when it comes to health data exchange, is built up currently. So the way current incentives are set up, let's just take the example of a pharma company. I used to work at a pharma company, a top 10 global pharma company, and I could tell from firsthand experience that things are not aligned in terms of incentives as they probably should, because the patient is not really the center point, even for companies who say they're working patient-centric. So what does that mean? So let's take the example of a pharma company who has a promising molecule in their pipeline, and they want to go ahead and get clinical trials started. So what do? Well, they need patients, and they need some form of data and data structure to set up the clinical trials and to be able to do this in a meaningful way that's compliant with FDA and all of the other regulatory bodies. So they go to these middlemen, these intermediaries called CROs, contract research organizations, and essentially give them their request of, okay, this is the eligibility criteria of the patients that we want in the clinical trial. These are the inclusion and exclusion criteria. needs to be above maybe 18, maybe even more stringent, somewhere between 25 and 45. Maybe in this case has type 1 diabetes, but is not prone to have elevated risk of heart failure in the next 5 years, and then further inclusion and exclusion criteria. And so they give this information to the CRO, and the CRO is an intermediary who then goes to sources, hospitals, and other elements and stakeholders in the healthcare system, collects this data, finds suitable clinical trial sites, and then bundles this information, these data packages, and sells it back to pharma. So there's a couple of things wrong with this image, but the first one is, where are we? Where are we as individuals? Where are we as patients? We're not involved in this process at all. And so this is the first thing that we're really, tackling with our approach. The second thing is, you have this intermediary in the system, which exists, if you think about it, purely because data silos exist. So because there's the lack of transparency, there's a need for these companies to do all these bundling and unbundling and reselling. So if you take out the middleman, not only do you now give room for the patients to be directly involved, but you also reduce the monetary inefficiency of the system in a way that now makes the entire research process much more affordable. So let's go back to the first point and try to answer your question. So what does this mean for the individual user, for the individual patient? So I have worked in healthcare for the past decade, and I understand more than anyone how important it is that health data must be securely stored and accessed only by authorized people and organizations. So at the heart of our app and at the heart of our entire ecosystem is this ideology that you as an individual user should be in full control of your health data. So that means you should be able to personalize which data you want to share with whom, and you should be able to revoke that access at any point in time if you want. And it should be at your whole comfort for you to be able to do that in a way where you have essentially full control, and it's really up to you what you want to do with the data. And even, since we're in Germany, let me address maybe like one elephant in the room. Germany is known globally to have, one of the most stringent, let's call it political views on data privacy. And so being at the heart of Germany within Europe, we're abiding by all of the rules of GDPR. And it's really interesting because healthcare data is extremely sensitive, and we need to make sure that it's treated with the most respect and the highest level of security possible. So now let's actually try to answer your question after all that prelude. So the reason why actually we're leveraging blockchain technology to solve this problem is because it gives you exactly that. It gives you the transparency of the transactions, so you can see which transactions, so for example, which data sharing transactions have occurred. And at the same time, it gives you the anonymity. So for example, you won't have to have it be tied to your name at all. Instead, we're using technologies that allow you to contribute to medical research without even identifying who you are as an individual. So that's the first step. The second thing is, you can imagine that the smart contract that we're implementing has two main functionalities. The first one is to be able to provide this layer that we just described, such that you can actually share data and manage all of that access of the data sharing processes. And the second one is for you to be able to monetize that data sharing in a way that, again, keeps you anonymous. If we think about like the analogy of the Web 2 case, even if there was a system in which you could share your data anonymously, if you wanted to be rewarded, you still have the problem that somehow you need to be identified, right? Because at some point you're going to leave your credit card information or some banking information for you to be able to reap those rewards. But in the Web3 system, you can do all of this without revealing your identity. Now, the third aspect of this, which is the one that I find personally the most interesting, is the leveraging ZK proof technology. So what ZK-proof technology allows us to do now is, instead of me sharing my data so that it actually leaves the data premise and is accessible by a third party, now what we can do is have the data requester. So let's take the pharma company as an example. Let's say the pharma company has a question and it's something like, of 1,000 diabetes patients who live in the US, how many of those are at high risk of heart failure in the next 5 years? And there's a data set that they want to analyze. And instead of them actually looking at the data set and doing the analysis themselves, what we can now do is have that data requester write an algorithm for the data that they would do in any case, anyways, and have that algorithm be run on the data set without the data requester seeing the data, and then have the algorithm output the answer to that question. So for example, perhaps it's, I'm going to make this number up, but perhaps it's 28% of that diabetes population has a high risk of getting heart failure in the next 5 years. And now can output that back to the data purchaser with the ZK proof of saying, yes, the data is correct. The way that the algorithm ran over that data was correct, and does not reveal either the information, the personal information of the individuals who contributed their data to that particular set. And it also does not reveal any information about anything else that might be relevant in perhaps being able to re-identify any of these patients. Because the only thing that is outputted back to that pharma company or that data requester is the answer to their original question. And so that's what we're really excited about building in blockchain, and being able to leverage ZK technology. And in particular, as it pertains to AI, because now what we can do with AI is create algorithms that are a lot more powerful and can see these patterns in a much faster way than we humans can. And now by leveraging both of those technologies, we're at a point where we can really revolutionize the way that we do medical research.
So I can start putting hashtag AI in every tweet that has to do with you guys now, utilizing AI. Sure. No, I think this topic is vastly important, especially like given that it's unlocking an entire new economy, essentially being able to still abide by medical regulations. Like you said, here in Germany, they're very strict and like controversial. And in the United States, we have HIPAA regulations, and they're very aggressive. They don't want that data being leaked. And so it just leaves so much data, which is taking up energy, just on the table that can't benefit us, even though it's our data. And the entire topic of being able to have data sovereignty and still remain anonymous is something that I think collectively, like, you understand it, we understand it, but we need to do a good job explaining it to the broader public so that they can effectively trust that it's real. Because like, I understand how it works, but I am not a coder, so I'm still trusting like the code works and everything. But it's an interesting thing, and I think that we still have a little bit of ways to go when it comes to that. But you might honestly have a better understanding or experience as to how you're like onboarding the individuals, because I know right now you're focused on onboarding one person at a time, or hopefully not just individual people at a time, but groups of people. Are you going around to different hospitals or different entities that have a lot of this siloed data and trying to onboard them as well? Or is that something you're looking to do down the line a little bit to gain mass adoption with this type of technology?
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. So actually, I see two questions in that. So the first one is, what are the data sources that we're integrating into the app? And so to begin with, we are starting with, as I was mentioning, in the diabetes space, blood glucose levels. But this is all done in this initial app in a manual way. But of course, it's prone to error, whether it's on purpose or accidental, and causes additional friction for the user because perhaps they already have apps or devices that are automating that for them. So it's just unnecessary friction. So actually, one of the next things that we're building in this app is automated delivery of the transfer of data from existing devices and apps on your phone. So you can imagine being able to use API integrations to directly gather the information, let's say from your Dexcom CGM, if you have one, particularly if you have diabetes, or the Abbott Freestyle Libre, So the question is, what is the data source? And yes, in the long term, the vision definitely is to be able to collect data from all kinds of sources, including hospitals and electronic health records. And that's definitely on our roadmap. For now, what we're focusing on is to really be able to gather data and be able to gather data quickly in a meaningful way, to be able to do medical research, do a first proof of concept medical research study to see that this actually works. And then while we're doing that, build out the technology to be able to integrate with all these electronic health record systems. It's a quite large task, if I may say so, because every country has different electronic health record providers and different standards and different even let's call it political ways of being able to deal with that. In Germany, for example, we do have, as individual patients, we do have the right to see our medical records, and in the US, it's the same thing with HIPAA. That's the whole point of having it being portable, right? And that's the point of HIPAA, is to be able to access your medical data at any point and be able to provide it to another medical provider. So that's kind of the first question, like, what data sources are we looking at? And then to take it a step further, definitely in the roadmap to integrate with other services and in particular electronic health record providers. For now, our go-to-market strategy is to work with the existing diabetes communities, because this is where we see the largest gain and the most momentum that we can build. We can see, as I've kind of already alluded to previously, that the willingness to share is extremely high, and all we need is for there to be awareness out there. So this is why we're working with ambassadors. Yesterday, you were able to connect with one of our ambassadors in the diabetes space. We have another one. She's based out of Switzerland, and we'll be building out our ambassador program here as we move along with product development, in order for the different communities, in particular the diabetes communities, to just gain that awareness and be able to understand what is the benefit, and over time understand, okay, what is the benefit of leveraging Web3 technologies, and why is this safe, secure, why is this transparent, and really, understand all of the benefits to be able to use it. And then again, like I was referring to earlier, use the referral programs, and then create the snowball effect of more and more users coming on board.
Well, I love it. I think it's a good system. You guys seem extremely competent from the conversations that we've had. Are you seeing a lot of people, are you reaching out to make partnerships in this space? I know, again, at the event yesterday, we keep referencing that's an event, but you guys had someone from Molecule who's coming onto the team to help more directly. So are you able to make different partnerships in the space, or even out of DeSci as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you think about it, partnerships are one of the most essential ways for a startup to grow, because of lack of resources that, a small team has. So, yes, we're very open to collaboration and partnerships. We've been talking to different projects in the DeSci space in particular, very open to that, and hopefully we'll be able to announce something a little bit more concrete on that soon. But yeah, so we do.
I tried, guys. I tried.
So we do. We did yesterday. We did announce that our technical advisor is the senior Web3 engineer at Molecule, and so it's really great to have someone on board who's extremely knowledgeable of everything that's going on in the DeSci space, building out the core technology of Molecule, the IP NFT technology, everything that they're building in terms of Catalyst and the further platforms that are providing, revolutionary mechanisms to really bring medical research forward. So it's amazing to be at the core of DeSci and to have these people, these advisors who are really helpful and meaningful to be at our side while we're doing that. And maybe just a personal anecdote, my co-founder Murad was sharing this at the rooftop event yesterday. The way that we actually met Stefan, our advisor who works at Molecule, was really interesting, because DeSci, if you think about it, is still extremely, extremely young, and it's just this new space that's starting to flourish and is still super nascent. But the term DeSci actually is still fairly new. So the story of how we met Stefan actually is my co-founder Murad, he was online. It was around 2 years ago when we met at the first DeSci Berlin conference ever. It was right before that time frame when Murad was on YouTube, online, just checking. He was into blockchain technology. He was in crypto, and he was a medical student here in Berlin at the Charité University. And so he was looking at different ways of how to implement blockchain technology in the field of medicine. And in particular, he was interested in creating a decentralized electronic health record system. And he stumbled upon some very old videos of Stefan when he was still with a different employer. And a couple of weeks after we met, he sent me these videos. I was like, we need to connect with this guy. We need to connect with this guy. And I thought, yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty good. Let's do it. And next thing you know, we were at an event in Molecule's old offices at a tool node here in Berlin, and started talking to Stefan, realized he actually now worked at Molecule. Congratulated him on his new role, and has, been talking about our idea ever since. So it's really great because he's been able to provide us with a lot of very technical and very knowledgeable insights as to, what technology is up and coming, state-of-the-art plays. And just super excited for someone so core of the DeSci space to be on our team.
That is awesome. Definitely awesome. Congratulations. And it's kind of cool to see like how small of a world it really is. The full circle came right back around. Is there anything else either in future development? I know we touched on a lot of things in this interview, in this conversation. Is there anything else that's just nagging at you that you really want to share with the people watching?
I don't know. Should we talk about the token, or do we want to wait a little bit for that?
I mean, I'm always down to talk about the token. I just don't know about it.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So yesterday we actually announced that we're opening up the public pre-sale of our token, and we do have a whitelist started. So let me just say that it will be, of course, a very closed round in our whitelist. But perhaps, maybe after this we could talk about how we can perhaps give your community, a special offer.
Yeah.
To be able to apply for that whitelist. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get everyone on board, but I do want to give you and your community the opportunity to participate in that as well.
Amazing. I'm sure they're going to appreciate that. So let's definitely talk off camera though, so that they don't sneak into anything. Yeah, I appreciate it. It'll be good. What chain are you guys picking to launch the token on?
Yeah, good question. So the entire smart contract infrastructure we're building on Polygon, and the token itself is going to be ERC20.
Nice. Awesome. And it's good, not just directly onto Ethereum, so they don't have to worry about the fees as much.
That's right.
Go straight for Polygon instead of bridging 6 months after creating the token. I love it. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
This was a good interview, so
thank you.
We're going to go to Lord Germany now.
Let's do that.
Thank you so much, Jock, for taking the time to sit with me and have that discussion about your project. Remember, time is your most valuable asset. If you found this worth investing into, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button and check out all of their links in the description.